The Road to Ninja movie was a thrill ride for me. Yeah, I know it's not canon, but really, what is canon anymore? We said that the Blood Prison movie wasn't canon, yet Naruto acknowledges it in Boruto. Either way, this story was good, and it displayed something so good that it might have been written by Kishimoto himself. It takes time to tell a fascinating story, as well as exploring the main character's strife on an emotional level deeply. Sakura, for the first time, gets to understand what it feels like to have no parents. Naruto gets to experience what it was like to grow up with parents. At first, he's defensive, but afterward, he begins to warm up until the realization breaks immersion for him. That was so sad. In this story, we get to meet another interesting character. A boy in a fox mask who appears to have strength on par with pain. An evil incarnation of Naruto, Menma. This version of Naruto is one who was corrupted, a dark counterpart who was manipulated by Tobi until he was freed by Naruto. Someone so similar to Naruto, yet so different. I always loved the concept of Menma, the characterization of him, his usage of the Dream Kurama without issue. I want to take Menma for a moment and transport him into the true Naruto world. Let's explore a world where Menma was real. A world where maybe Menma and Naruto grew up beside each other. What if Naruto and Menma were brothers?
Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Also, we just released some brand new merch. If you'd like to show your support for the channel even further while at the same time repping stylish clothing, be sure to check that out as well. The store is linked below. YouTube's been unsubscribing users from channels lately, so if you're a fan of us, please do us a favor and double check to see if you're still subscribed. It only takes a second and it helps us a ton here at Amagi. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
Minato stood there, his feet firmly planted on the ground. Slowly, he was skidding, his feet fighting to maintain ground. His arms were wrapped around Kushina, who was reaching back, gripping his hips as her bare feet bled, attempting to hold tight to what little ground the Ninetales had given them. She grunted as a small stream of blood dripped from her lips. Directly before her eyes was a bloody claw, one that had perforated not only herself, but Minato. His blood mingled with hers on the end of the demon fox's claw. She fought for breath, as did Minato. Minato, gazing over her shoulder, caught a glimpse of the two precious things worth dying for. The things he was sacrificing himself for right now. Two tiny babies who seemed oblivious to the carnage and mayhem around them. He recalled it. He'd been standing in the room with the nurses, his hand pressed against Kushina's seal as at first she screamed, and then a tinier voice screamed. Screaming into life with passion and strength, a set of tiny lungs were set ablaze by the immediate need to draw breath. A traumatic experience for a child, but one they would surely forget. Minato calmed down and removed his hands from the seal as a child with dark black hair was shown to him. At first, Minato was confused. He had blonde hair and Kushina had red. So where did this child inherit black? Suddenly, Kushina screamed again, taking the room by surprise. A red aura began to cover her body as the Ninetales seized an opportunity. Minato quickly rushed back over and pressed his hands to her stomach. "Kushina, what's wrong?" he called out, begging her to acknowledge him in some way. But she couldn't. Tears streamed down her cheek as she grit her teeth. Biwako came to Kushina's legs. "Another crown!" she called out. Minato looked over. What does this mean? She didn't acknowledge the question as another nurse rushed over. Biwako looked over Kushina's knees. "Dear, you gotta push. Push hard. I know you're tired, but you've gotta push." Minato was in a state of panic, his concentration breaking as the Ninetales chakra leaked out from under his palm. Biwako slapped him in the shoulder. "Pay attention, Lord Fourth," she shouted. Minato attempted to concentrate. "Keep going," Biwako shouted. "You're almost there. Push! Push!" With a cry of Kushina's pain, there was a second cry. Biwako sighed in relief. Minato looked over. There was a second child in Biwako's arms. She was cleaning the babe off. This time, the child was blonde. Biwako looked up at the clock. "Mark it 01:35 hours. This one is 4 minutes and 12 seconds younger than the other." Minato was in shock. Two children? He looked to Kushina. "Please tell me you're done now." She was just laying there, panting heavily, trying to catch her breath. He walked over to her and moved the matted hair from her forehead and gave her a gentle kiss. She smiled. He then walked over. He was presented with the eldest dark-haired baby as Kushina was presented with the lighter-haired younger baby. Minato looked them over to ensure they were healthy before kissing them. "Now we have a dilemma," he said. Kushina, holding the baby up, looked at him with confusion. Minato smiled. "We only bothered to think up a single boy name. What do we name the other?" Kushina looked at the baby in her arms. "This one is Naruto, and the one you're holding will be..." She looked at her child and then at Minato. She decided to keep with the theme of naming the child after something found in a bowl of ramen. But furthermore, she chose the name that sounded the closest to Minato's. "That one we'll name Menma." Minato held the child up to the light. Menma. I love it. He brought the babe closer to his cheeks and said its name quietly and lovingly. Menma. Hello, Menma. I'm your daddy. But I am sure you know that we just can't let Minato and Kushina be happy. It's against the rules to let them enjoy their lives together, so we need to bring the Judas into this. Benedict Arnold in shinobi form has to betray his mentor and attempt to take the Nine Tails. Most of that is how you recall it up to this point that we've reached. As Minato and Kushina were bleeding out, Minato made the decision. They must seal the beast up. Finishing the hand signs, Minato called upon the Grim Reaper himself, the Shinigami that would take the life of he who summoned it in exchange for helping him. Minato ripped the Nine Tails chakra and reverted it to a form that could be sealed away, pure chakra. However, as the beast flowed through his body, he knew that he couldn't seal the whole thing up into a child, lest it escape. Looking upon his sons, a son of light and a son of darkness, a child of yin and a child of yang. And so, using this concept, he split the Nine Tails into two halves, a yin half and a yang half. The yin he sealed within the darker-haired child, and the yang he sealed within the lighter-haired child. As the swirling seal on their bellies disappeared, Minato then noticed the two possessed a mark already on their stomachs. A strange birthmark around where the seal was. Had it been there before? Had he merely not noticed it? The darker-haired child possessed a moon-shaped birthmark on his stomach, as the other possessed what appeared to be the sun on his. These truly were the brothers of light and darkness. It was as if fate had preordained this. In that moment, he had a flash of suffering, but it was hard to tell whose suffering he was witnessing. Was it his children? Was it the world? Before he had a chance to think further, the Shinigami tightened its grip on Minato's soul. Minato leaned forward with Kushina, and they both kissed their children. Minato felt his soul leave his body. For a moment, he was viewing the situation in third person, seeing his own body before suddenly he entered the darkness of the Shinigami's mouth and finally landed in its stomach. Kushina felt Minato slump, and a tear came to her eyes knowing that he'd left her. But as she looked down at the gaping hole in her stomach, blood and bile pouring from the wound, her body shuddered in the cold, no longer feeling the pain. She felt her heart skipping beats, stopping and starting, like a motor being bogged down by lack of fuel. She took a deep breath as she looked to her children. She smiled and exhaled her last words, her eyes darkening as she said them. I love you. She then fell onto the ground, dead. Hiruzen would rush in to protect the children. These two he would raise for a short time until they were old enough to take care of themselves. A few years pass, and the children are living on their own. Innocent and full of smiles, they know not what they lost nor the life ahead of them. The two play with each other all day. They draw and color, they watch TV and play video games. Hiruzen was a kind man. While he couldn't actually watch them, he would visit every so often with money. Sometimes the two would get to have dinner with him. Despite the way that most people saw him as a failure of a Hokage who barely kept the village afloat, Menma and Naruto saw him like a grandpa. He was everything they wanted to be. They loved him. Sometimes he would bring them something to eat, other times he'd bring them new toys and games, and on one particular occasion, he brought them a gaming console. The two of them were so pleased. But his kindness was the only thing besides the joy of the men from Ichiraku to actually show them that the village cared anything for them. Elsewhere, rumors abounded. Stories that the fourth Hokage had only been able to defeat the Nine Tails by ripping its chakra in half and using a special forbidden jutsu to transform it into people. Two people. Naruto and Menma were oblivious to this, but everyone who saw them believed it. The Nine Tails. The beast that had killed so many was standing before them in two miniature helpless frames. This made people seek justice. Menma and Naruto were walking home from the store. In their hands were two bags filled to the brim with ramen. I got the cheese-flavored one, Menma, look! He would lift the cup up and show his brother. Menma would stick his hand in. I got the beef! These two had often found themselves at odds over certain things, but they couldn't help but agree that ramen noodles were the best food in the world. But life plays no favorites, and cruelty finds itself choosing any, regardless of their ability to defend themselves. Menma and Naruto would be pulled into an alleyway by a group of Chunin who had hoped to get revenge. You see, these Chunin were children during the time that the Nine Tails attacked, and so they had lost their parents in the ensuing battle. Hearing that the Nine Tails was now allowed to live in the village, even further being protected by the Hokage, they found themselves full of anger and hatred. They pulled them into the darkest alleyway and threw them against the wall, causing the contents of their grocery bags to spill out. Naruto tried to gather it back up, but one of the Chunin stepped up and kicked him in the side of the head. What gives you the right to live here in Konoha? What gives you the right to breathe our air? To walk our streets and eat our food? To have protection from our Hokage? Naruto gripped his jaw, certain that they'd knocked out a tooth. Menma would see this and stand up in anger. Looking to those who had attacked his brother, he grit his teeth. I hate you, he shouted with fists clenched. He grabbed an old pipe and ran at the Chunin with it. This did very little in the grand scheme of things, however. He too was kicked and knocked against the wall. The moment that his back struck the wall, he felt all air leave his lungs. He attempted to get it back, his mind aflame with panic as nothing would enter. Suddenly, his lungs were covered and air rushed in. The Chunin walked over to him. "A pipe? You're as stupid as you are weak. I think we'll start by beating you senseless and force the other to watch." One of the other Chunin gripped Naruto, whose teeth were still bleeding. They held his head, gripping him by the back of the neck and forcing him to watch as the lead Chunin mercilessly beat Menma, his foot clashing against the child's face and torso, drawing blood and causing bruises. Suddenly, a man wearing an Anbu mask came from the rooftops and stood there. He stared at the two of them from beneath his mask, eyes like fire. "That's plenty enough," he said as he raised to his full height. "Leave them alone now." The Chunin saw him and scoffed. "You're defending them? Who do you think you are?" The man did not speak, he just stood there. The first Chunin gave Menma one last kick as the second threw Naruto to the side. Both of them began to leave the alleyway, leaving Naruto and Menma alone with the new Anbu operative. Naruto crawled over to Menma, who was unconscious. "Oh no, he's dead. They killed him. They killed my brother." The Anbu agent walked over and felt for a pulse. "No, he's still alive, I promise. He's just been knocked out." Naruto's tears seemed to slow a little. The agent lifted Menma up in his arms and held him, resting the boy's battered face against his chest. He held out his free hand and took Naruto's with an odd sense of comfort and empathy. Naruto took it and the two walked back to the children's apartment. The door opened and the Anbu agent walked to their room where he lay Menma down in the bed. Naruto watched from the door as the agent slowly examined the boy. Raising his lids, the agent checked to see if Menma had a concussion, which of course he did. The agent went back to the freezer and grabbed some ice and put it into a towel, bringing it back. He pressed it against Menma's swollen cheek. He looked back at Naruto and motioned him in. Naruto slowly came closer. His entire body was shaking and he still had tears in his eyes from the experience. The agent's shoulders drooped a little. He put his thumb on the child's chin. "Open your mouth, please." Naruto opened his mouth and indeed one of his molars were missing. It had been knocked out. But there was some good news as this was merely a baby tooth and would be replaced eventually anyway. "Your tooth is gone, but it should be replaced not too long from now anyway with a big boy tooth. After all, that's what you are, right? A big boy." Naruto nodded. The agent continued. "And a big boy is strong and cares for his brother even if he's scared, right?" Naruto nodded again. The agent nodded, his expressions hidden below his mask, but his eyes bearing kindness and a glimmer of love. Something Naruto had not truly ever seen, not even in Mr. Hiruzen's eyes, only ever in his brother's. This left Naruto to wonder who this Anbu agent really was, and being the inquisitive boy he was, he couldn't help but ask, "Who are you, Mr. Fox Mask?" The man cocked his head to the side for a moment in thought. "Your guardian." Naruto repeated those words as a question. The man continued, "I was asked by Lord Third, Hiruzen, to always watch over you and your brother. He knew it would be hard to defend yourselves, so I'm here to make sure that you don't have to. I'm sorry it took me a little while to show up." He transferred the ice to Naruto's cheek. "Are you okay?" Naruto's tears began to drip again as he hugged the man. The man was speechless, but his heart was filled with compassion. He returned the hug. "Don't worry, I'm always watching you. I won't let anyone hurt you." Naruto kept hugging the man. This Anbu agent had grown to love these children in the time that he'd been watching them. For what seemed to be dusk until dawn, he kept an eye out as per Hiruzen's orders. But he had done the thing that a good agent never does. He got emotionally attached. He had also lived through the devastation of the Nine-Tails attack, but this agent was not deceived by the rumors. He knew these children weren't the Nine-Tails incarnate, but the Jinchuriki of the beast. He stroked Naruto's hair like a loving uncle would and returned the ice to Menma, who was beginning to stir. Naruto let go when he heard Menma grunt. Naruto turned his full attention to his brother. The agent would put the ice in Naruto's hand. "Keep this pressed to your cheek for a while. It'll make the swelling go down and ease the pain he'll feel when he wakes up." He stood there for a moment. He looked to Naruto. "You know, I'm always watching you. If you need to talk to me, take this tape and make an X on your window with it. When I see the X, I'll know to actually meet up with you, okay?" Naruto nodded. The man then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto kept holding the ice to Menma's cheek. Slowly, the boy opened his eyes. "Naruto?" Tears of happiness streamed down Naruto's cheeks. "I'm here, Menma." Naruto helped Menma to recover. Days passed, and Naruto told Menma about the masked man. Menma hadn't seen him, but he was interested. Naruto decided that he would mark the window so that the two could meet him together. However, after marking the window, nothing happened. The man didn't show up. Naruto was confused, and Menma began to believe that Naruto had imagined the man, but little did they know that the man they hoped to meet could not come. The reason? The Uchiha had begun an uprising, and the Anbu had to put it down. particularly Root under the command of Danzo Shimura. The battle was intense. Now, you see, I'm taking it a step further. Instead of Menma being Naruto's brother, I'm actually making him the Indra reincarnation as well, meaning that Sasuke in this world was never born. Instead, his role is being filled by Menma, and due to the fact that Itachi no longer has anyone to protect, it seems doubtful that he will attempt to destroy the clan. This means that the Uchiha would likely learn of this, and an all-out war breaks out in the village between the Anbu and the Uchiha. The smoke and flames can be seen from the children's apartment. The two watch, confused as to what may be happening and why the village is on fire. Is it an attack? Menma asks. Maybe someone left the stove on, Naruto says. Menma goes to answer, but suddenly feels a hand cover his mouth. Naruto attempts to scream, but it's muffled by the hand of another. Two sets of glowing red eyes stare at them from the shadows. The Uchiha. They grab the two out of the apartment and into the nearby forest where they lay Naruto down on a slab. They grip Menma tightly as the Uchiha begins the process of unsealing the yang half of Kurama. Hold still and I'll try to make it painless, the Uchiha says. Naruto cries out as the beast is slowly pulled out of him. Tears stream down his face as his voice pierces the night, sending the nocturnal creatures and fowl fleeing from them. Menma stands there and sees this. Tears form in his own eyes as he reaches out for Naruto. Naruto cannot move, he's in too much pain. Suddenly something snaps inside of Menma. He grips the arm of the Uchiha holding him and breaks their wrist. The Uchiha cries out in pain as a thick red aura envelops Menma. His fingers turn to talon-like claws as his eyes glow a deep red. Naruto sees this as he falls unconscious. The Uchiha slowly working on Naruto looks over his shoulders to see the commotion, but suddenly he sees the child's clawed hands coming for him. The fingers gouge the eyes and push deeper until cries of agony stop and the body of the Uchiha falls. Menma looks back to see three more Uchiha coming at him. He steps forward to kill them as well, but before he can, a man in a mask drops from the sky and steps between Menma and the Uchiha. With one quick strike from his blade, he decapitates the three Uchiha, leaving himself and Menma alone with Naruto. He would rush over and reseal the beast into Naruto as Menma's aura disappears. Are you the guardian guy with the mask? The man looks back and nods. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. I had to help with the uprising, but I'm here now and I won't leave your side. So he gathered up the frightened Naruto and took him and Menma back home. He kept his eyes open the entire time. All the while, he thought about how cruelly the world had treated two innocent and defenseless children. Stepping into their apartment, he closed the door and locked it behind him. He closed the curtains and turned on only a soft light. He walked to their couch and sat down, still holding Naruto close, who was still sniffing, scared of what they were doing. Menma sat there beside him and looked at the blood on his hands in confusion, wondering why it was that he was capable of doing that. Menma looked at the Anbu agent and asked what happened and why he could do what he did, but the agent did not respond. He said that this was a question for Lord Hiruzen. Menma sat there and watched Naruto. Menma crawled up to them and put his hand on Naruto's back. He looked at the masked man and realized that everything that Naruto had told him about this man was true. He was loving. He was kind. He was everything he'd been told. Mister, who are you? Menma asked. The man looked at him. I'm your guardian. Menma shook his head. No, you're always wearing that mask. Who are you, really? The man thought for a second, as even Naruto had turned his eye to him, wondering if he would divulge this information. The man thought for a moment and sighed. He lifted his hand and gripped his mask, slowly removing it to reveal a young man of about age 20, his hair white and his eyes displaying what seemed to be heterochromia, until Menma realized that his left eye was the same as those people who had tried to hurt Naruto. He seemed to get a little defensive. The man smirked. If I were with those people, I wouldn't have saved you. Menma admitted this made sense and he calmed down. The man spoke. My name is Kakashi Hatake, and I chose to be your guardian. Kakashi, Naruto repeated. Menma looked on. Why did you protect us? Kakashi looked over. I chose to do so because I cared for your father. Your father was like a father to me, making you two like my little brothers. I just couldn't stand to see the pain you were in. I had to do something. He looked at Menma, who still possessed blood on his hands and on his face. Kakashi stood and sat Naruto down. He then escorted Menma to the bathroom, where he took a wet rag and proceeded to clean him off. I'm sorry bad stuff keeps happening, but you two are strong, aren't you? Menma nodded. Kakashi nodded too and carried him back to the couch. Together they sat in silence until fatigue seemed to catch up to them. And as they began to fall asleep, pressed against his chest, he stood and carried them to their bedroom and laid them both in the shared bed that they had and covered them up. He proceeded to sit by the bed with them as they slept all night until morning when another Anbu agent came to the window. Menma remembered waking up to see Kakashi standing by the window talking. No survivors. They wouldn't surrender and Danzo ordered us to scorch the earth. Kakashi nodded and sighed. He seemed really sad. What about... The agent looked at Kakashi with a questioning face. What about Itachi? He was on my team for a while. The agent was silent for a moment. I'm sorry. He attempted to defend his father and was killed in battle. Kakashi closed his eyes with sorrow and took a deep breath. He composed himself and looked up. Thank you for the report. The agent disappeared. Kakashi turned to look and noticed Menma looking at him. He walked over and stroked his head. Well, good morning to you, Menma. Menma looked up. What happened? Kakashi smiled. All the bad people who tried to hurt you and Naruto were caught. You two are safe again. I'll still watch over you, but you're free to have your privacy again. You remember the signal, right? Menma nodded. If we need you, tape an X to our window. Kakashi gave him a thumbs up. Give your brother my love when he wakes up. I'll also send Hiruzen your way whenever I can. Then he disappeared. Menma lay there in bed and thought all about it. Naruto, meanwhile, was cuddling up to Menma, still sleeping. The window remained open. The sunlight, chirping of birds, and sound of the wind blowing through could be heard. Menma smelled the scent of the flowers as they bloomed. He too would find himself lulled back to sleep by this. Eventually, the two would get back up sometime around noon. Menma and Naruto wouldn't really go anywhere that day, still slightly shaken from the past few. As they waited at home and played their games, they would hear a knock at the door. Menma would answer it and see the elderly Hokage smiling at them. May I come in? He said with his gruff yet caring voice. Menma let him in. He sat down at the table and looked at the pictures. One of the pictures was a rough illustration of Kakashi wearing his mask. I see you met Kakashi. Do you like him? Naruto nodded as he drew another picture of him. Yeah, he's really nice. He's like you. Hiruzen would let off a small laugh. I brought some food for us all and a board game. Maybe we can spend some time together. I know you both had a trying day. Menma nodded and sat down. Those Uchiha people came and tried to kill Naruto. Hiruzen began to make some tea for himself and the children. Indeed. Kakashi told me that. He also said that you two were very strong and that you attempted to defend your brother, Menma. He told me that something happened and you didn't understand it. Menma was silent as he looked at his fingers. Hiruzen sat back down. There's no need for you to feel upset about what happened. You merely defended yourself and your brother. Menma looked up. Feel bad? No, I don't feel bad at all. Those guys got what they deserved. If I could do it again, I would. Hiruzen seemed slightly distressed by that statement, but tried to clear it away from his mind as he cleared his throat. Anyway, that strange ability. Menma sat forward. What was it? I felt so strong, like I could do anything. Hiruzen nodded. I had hoped to hide this from you for as long as I could. I didn't want you to have an unnatural childhood, but it seems nothing would have stopped that anyway. He began to pour tea. 6 years ago, on the day you were born, the nine-tailed fox escaped from its prison within your mother. You see, she was a very special woman. She was called a Jinchuriki. Naruto raised his hand. What was her name? Hiruzen smiled. It was Kushina. Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto gasped and smiled. Her name was so pretty. Was she pretty too? Hiruzen nodded. Immensely. Her hair was red, like fire, and burned almost as brightly as her personality. I see a lot of her in you, Naruto. As Jinchuriki, her job was to seal the demon fox into her body, but somehow the fox escaped. I believe it was let out by someone evil. Probably one of the Uchiha who tried to hurt you. The fox came out of her and she began to die, but she kept her babies close. You two. Your father was a man named Minato Namikaze, and he was the Hokage. His face is right beside mine on the rock. He was a strong-willed man. Hiruzen looked to Menma. I see so much of him in you, Menma. He was someone that could take charge of a situation quickly. Hiruzen would then take a sip of his tea. The day the demon fox escaped, Minato used a forbidden jutsu to split the power of the demon fox in half, and seal one half into each of you. Naruto, Menma, the both of you, like your mother, are Jinchuriki. Inside of you, the demon fox lays imprisoned, and every so often you can use its power. That is what happened to you last night. You called on the power of the Nine Tails and it heeded your call. It gave you the strength to save your brother. Menma looked at his hands. Naruto's hand shot up. So I can do it too? Hiruzen nodded. You both can. But do be careful. The fox is not your friend. He wants to escape and hurt people. So be wary of anything he should say and try not to use his powers unless you absolutely have to. Naruto nodded. Can you tell us more about our parents, Grandpa Hiruzen? Hiruzen stroked his beard and smiled. Indeed. And so Hiruzen regaled them with stories of Minato and Kushina. Some were happy, some were sad. Some stories made them laugh, but all the while, it merely made them more aware of the hole in their heart. Hiruzen knew that this was the case, but he didn't stop talking about them. He knew that Naruto and Menma deserved to know the truth about their parents. They would talk over dinner, and they'd talk over a board game. They would talk over a movie and while playing video games. Naruto and Menma seemed so happy, but sadly Hiruzen could not stay all night. so he got them ready for bed and tucked them in. He gave each a kiss on the forehead and proceeded to leave them there to sleep. The next day, Menma awakens to see Naruto straddling him, his eyes full of wonder and joy. "I know what we can do today," Naruto said. "I want to go see the monument of Daddy. Can we go see it, Menma?" Menma sat up. "Sure, I want to see him too." So the two boys would get up, have breakfast, brush their teeth, and head out. As they wandered the streets, they would find a good place from which to view the monument. "Wow, look at him. He had so much hair," Naruto shouted. Menma looked on. "He was handsome too. I wonder if we'll be handsome like him when we grow up." Naruto shrugged. The two of them would sit there and have lunch, just staring at the monument and talking about him. "I hope we can meet him someday," Naruto said between bites of his sandwich. Menma continued to look up at it. "I want to be Hokage too one day," Naruto said. "Then maybe they'll respect us." Menma looked over. "Nah, I think I'd rather be in the Anbu like Mr. Kakashi." Naruto smiled. "Oh, I love the Anbu. Maybe we can both join." Menma seemed confused. "I thought you said you wanted to be Hokage." Naruto shrugged. "Why can't I do both? Both are ninja, right? So why not be both?" Menma thought about it. "I guess you have a point." After lunch, they began to walk home when they noticed a store selling masks. "Oh look, that one looks like Mr. Kakashi's mask," Naruto said, pointing to a fox mask. Naruto walks into the store and picks it up. He and Menma look around the shop at the many masks being sold, but suddenly they feel themselves lifted by the shirt and thrown out by the shopkeeper. "Get out! We don't serve your kind!" Naruto hit the ground and seemed shocked. But we just wanted to look at your stuff, mister." The shopkeep threw the mask at him. "You want the thing so damn badly, you take it. Never come back." Naruto had been struck by the mask. The mask hit the ground in front of him, landing in the mud. The shopkeep disappeared inside the store once more, while Menma was sorely tempted to unleash his demon fox power to kill that man, but he didn't. Naruto seemed shaken. He looked up and saw the crowd standing around him, whispering to each other and just staring with contempt. Menma looked up as Naruto stood. "Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto ran off through the crowd. Menma stood up and looked at the crowd around him. "Are you all happy with yourselves? You made my brother cry. You're all bad people." He rushed through the crowd after Naruto. Naruto ran through the streets as fast as he could. Menma called out to him from behind. "Naruto! Naruto, wait up!" Menma made his way back to their apartment after having lost track of Naruto. As he stepped in, he noticed the door was unlocked. Closing the door behind him, he locked it and went deeper. "Naruto? Naruto?" He heard the sound of light sniffling as he stepped into he and Naruto's bedroom. "Naruto?" He came around the bed and found Naruto sitting in the corner, his legs pulled up, his face hidden in his knees. Menma came down on his hands and knees and made his way over. He sat down beside him. "Don't bother with what that man said. He's dumb. The crowd of people are dumb too." Naruto looked up. "Why do they hate us? We didn't do anything wrong, did we?" Menma shook his head. "No, there's no way we did anything wrong. If anything, Mr. Hiruzen makes it sound like we did good and saved the village by sealing the nine tails inside of us." Naruto continued to sniffle. "Then why does everyone hate us?" Menma shakes his head. "I don't know." He looks forward and sees the mask. He picks it up and looks at it. "Here, you have it. It looks like Kakashi's mask. You should have it." Naruto shook his head. "I don't want it anymore. The mean man ruined it." Menma looked at it to see if it was damaged, but upon seeing it fully functional and in perfect condition, he realized that Naruto meant that on an emotional level. He hadn't ruined the mask, he had ruined Naruto's desire to have it. Now, the mask that once symbolized Naruto's love for their guardian represented hatred. Hate of the village. Hatred and pain. He held the mask for a time and looked it over. He then put it in a box under their bed. He leaned over and hugged Naruto. Inside of Menma's heart, though, he was full of such pure rage and wrath. "It'll be okay, Naruto. I still love you." The rest of the day was ruined. Naruto's smile that generally lit up the entire room was nowhere to be found, instead being replaced by a melancholic stare, and a silence that made it feel like it was raining outside, despite it being sunny and bright. That night, they would go to bed and prepare to sleep. Naruto was the first to fall asleep as per usual. Menma was left there in bed, staring up at the ceiling, just thinking about the village and the way it treated him, but worse, how it treated Naruto. Naruto wasn't mean. Naruto was kind and happy. In fact, Menma could admit that out of the two of them, Naruto was the kindest and most pure. And to see the world treat him like that hurt Menma worse than every kick that Chunin had forced upon him. Eventually, Menma too would drift off to sleep, but as he did, his dream wasn't normal. It was dark. He heard a voice. "Humanity hates you." Menma looked around for the source of the voice. "Humanity wants you to die." The room lit up, and before him a large cage, sitting in the middle of a reflecting pool. Menma approached it to see a set of red fox eyes staring back at him from within the cage. "Perhaps you and I are more alike than I would like to admit. It seems that you understand the way humans are. Doesn't that anger you? Doesn't it make you want to strike back?" Menma nodded. "It does." A set of carnivorous teeth appeared to smile in the darkness. "Of course it does. And so it should. I foresee this to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship between you and I. And how about we pause it here for a time? This video was particularly interesting to me because I've always loved the character of Menma. The guy didn't have any six paths chakra, and yet he felt like Pain did, a true threat. It also could be because he could create minions similar to how Pain could make his six paths. Anyway, I look forward to seeing where this story goes, and I hope you'll continue the journey with me. Until next time, peace.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.